छेड़ी सजना हर जाना तू हर जाना प्यार च जिंदगी लभदी नहीं.
This was the first Peshawar Air Station reunion that brought some people together who had been in an extraordinary kind of assignment that was so far remote and isolated that for the longest it must have been a question of denial as to the very existence of 6937 Communications Group in a town called Peshawar in a country called Pakistan. As remote and isolated that tour was, it affirmed the fondness that two separate cultures developed for each other. A sort of an invisible bond that seemed to exist but could not be explained. Today, that came true, perhaps more out of nostalgia for something that was so apparently bizarre that it seemed unreal at the time. But time has done something for it, and it has grown in the hearts of those who had mutually experienced that kind of living together in peace and harmony. I think it was more spiritual, today's meeting that brought people together. That kind of magnetism hopefully will be catchy, and as the time goes, more and more people who had experienced Peshawar will come forward and partake in their extraordinary experiences they had. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Mike Mays, and I was stationed in Pakistan at the Peshawar Air Station in 1969, having volunteered to go over from Italy. They had asked for a couple volunteer 202 XOs, and I saw an opportunity to go to Pakistan because I had met one of our fellow airmen over in Italy who had come from there and loved the country because he had met a very special family there. So I had the opportunity not only to be stationed there, but also meet a wonderful Pakistani family that also helped make the tour very, very special. We did some things that were, for instance, we got to visit into tribal territory, some of the villages like Jamrud, one of the biggest of the villages. And we got to visit up into Swat, which I found out from a Japanese touring student. Swat was considered the holy land of the Buddhas, and is certainly a magical and a beautiful place. So as a 202, I was a day lady, as they called us. I worked the day shift, and I had kind of an unusual job in the sense that I had to work every single day of the week. So it limited some of my travel, but finally someone was able to take over for a couple weeks when I was able to travel to Kabul and also go up into Swat. The journey to Kabul was quite a wonderful experience. It was the time of when there was a lot of travel of people around the world, and often you'd see a car go by with Kathmandu or bust. And so there was a certain camaraderie you found when maybe you go to the embassy or the consulate and you'd find Americans or Peace Corps workers, and so it added a charm as a companionship when you came across fellow Americans. So that's kind of a brief glimpse of my time in Pakistan. I was fortunate to be there right up to the end of when we closed the ops, and it was kind of amusing. They took away our desks, they took away our chairs, and we ended up working on whatever we could sit on and write on. But it was an exciting time.
I was in 36350, and that would be crypto systems and teletype equipment maintenance. So I worked with NEX area of Ops Center with operators with the hard copy teletype intercept equipment and some transmitters. I was there from 1966 and left in May of 1967. It was a great experience, if you wish. It was an eye-opener. Came home and really valued my home, my country. I really didn't know people live like they did in Pakistan. One of the experiences I had was that we went on a fishing trip up into the higher country, and we went up there in jeeps. One of the guys broke his ankle, and it took us, I think, 2 or 3 days to get him down out of the mountains because of some landslides and other problems. So that wasn't a real good experience. Another time we took trips to, or other times we took trips to Rawalpindi, to the Holy Family Hospital that was there. There were Catholic nuns that gave us a little break from the ops stuff and gave us a feeling of home, I guess, and a little warmth. These nuns would trade us this Pakistani beer for any goods we could get from the air station, like inner tubes, typewriter ribbons, toilet paper, anything we could literally take from the base and get away with, we would take down to these nuns at Holy Family Hospital and trade them for their hospitality and this Pakistani beer. Well, you know, recently I watched that program that was on public television. It was called Band of Brothers. Well, this is a band of bandits. And it was really, to me, it was really a healing process to finally get together after all these years with someone and others who had experienced the same things that I did. I even began to imagine, did I really go through these things? Did I really see these things? And this has been a joy for me to meet up with you, my fellow alumni from Peshawar Air Station, and to know that we really did go through these things, and we really did a good job. And I'm proud of that.
I'm Don Yeagley. I was a member of the 2008th Com Squad from June of '68 through July of '69. I was a 306, which is a crypto repairman. Worked in the communications part for the 2008th Com Squad. Yeah, one of my more notorious experiences while I was over there was, of course, I was there during the time when we were starting to shut down the base, and what I did, we were doing some cleanup and cleaning up some of the wiring, etc. And in fact, we found some things that were not right. Let's say they were potential security violations. But we had the prints, and things were not according to print. And there was a lot of extra wire in some of the wiring ducts here. And as we were going through cleaning this stuff out, we clipped a set of wires, and it turns out that set of wires was coming from the main station battery supply for the teletype, which took out all of the teletype circuits to the outside world. And that was a very major panic. And what we did, we had to figure out very quickly what happened and how to get it. And what I ended up doing was getting the lines there, tracing them back to the supply, and actually stole a plug off of a piece of equipment in the room, and wired that up and plugged the station battery supply back into a wall outlet on the wall so that we had the station back on the air. We were down for about 10 or 15 minutes. Well, the next morning I had to answer to the commander as why did we have this outage on here, and I explained it, and we were all relieved that we figured that if we hadn't been thinking real fast, we could have been down easily for an hour or more or so. So we had to we really got things back fairly quickly. So that's ever since I first found the Gary's website on there. You know, we started talking about this, and this year we finally got it all going, and it's been really great because I was involved in a lot of the communicating, you know, sending out the emails to everybody, and that in itself was rewarding. But what was really nice was getting all the responses back from people and the various things, and even more so here at the event. Obviously, everybody has enjoyed what we've done, and we really hope to get more of this going, and have a bigger and better one next year. And hope we find more people. We're really trying to find more and more of the guys. So anybody that can do that, let us know.
Hello, my name is Milton Fulgham, and my FSC was 29450, and I was Electronic Intercept Operation Analysis Specialist. I was stationed in Peshawar, Pakistan with the 6937th Communications Group from December of 1967 until February of 1969. One of the interesting things about my tour was this trip there. Our instructions on the way over was that when we arrived in Karachi, Pakistan, we should go to the embassy and sign in with the embassy and tell them that you were needing transportation to Peshawar. And they would arrange transportation via Pakistani International Airways from Karachi to Peshawar. So we arrived in Karachi between Christmas of 67 and New Year's of 1968. So when we got to the embassy to sign in, there was just a kind of a skeleton crew there, mostly just the Marine Guards. And so we talked to him, the guard on duty, and told him why we were there. And he said, okay, well, you can sign in our log, and we'll pass the word along to the appropriate people at the embassy when they came back to work, which was, we thought, in a day or so. So we went to the hotel and was hanging out there and kind of seeing the sights and checking back with the hotel desk about 3 times a day. And finally, days went on and turned into almost a week, and we were starting to get low on money, and so we went back to the embassy, and I think by the time we went back it was after New Year's. And because I remember going to the British embassy, invited all the Americans at the hotel to come over to their embassy for a New Year's celebration. And so we went back to the embassy finally and says, we've been waiting, and we haven't heard anything about our flight to Peshawar. And they looked at us and their eyes got kind of big and said, where have you guys been? The base says you guys are AWOL, the base at Peshawar. So somehow or another the ball had gotten dropped, and they had listed us as AWOL, and they immediately gave us reservations the next day to continue our trip on to Peshawar. And when we arrived at Peshawar, the security people there, of course, were trying to grill us to make sure that we hadn't been going off getting briefed on how to be counterintelligence people or something. But anyway, but then there was nothing ever said about it again. I think they determined that the story was so bizarre it had to be true. So anyway, that was what was happening on our trip over there. Another thing that's, I guess, my tour was much like any other tour over there. You tour around, see the sights in between working. We worked 12-day cycles and of 3 days on each shift, and then a period of break. And then on the periods when we were on break, we could travel, do pretty much whatever we wanted to within reason. If we wanted to go very far, of course you had to get a pass. But most of the time we were just going out on little day trips up into the Khyber Pass and places like that. But for the most part, anyway, for the purposes of this video, it was pretty uneventful. Anyway, after years and years of not talking to just but a few individuals about the tour over there, I started quizzing the internet every once in a while, doing a little search request and trying to figure out what I could find out about the old unit, because it closed down while we were there. And my tour was curtailed a few months because of that, and I was able to get back to stateside just a little bit early. So anyway, I finally, about 3 years ago, I did a search, and sure enough, Air Force website came back with some hits on 6937th, and I did another search and had some more hits on Peshawar. So they had email addresses listed for a lot of those individuals, and so I sent an email to each one of them, and I think it was about 12 altogether. And that was the beginnings of our roster that's now on our website. So now that roster has grown to something like 2,700 people, and it all began there.
I'm Joe Branyan. I was a medic 90230 over in Pakistan at the 7219th USAF dispensary. I'm probably the only one here that's not part of the communication group, and I'm probably one of the youngest members here. At the time, I'm sure everybody kind of felt the same way when you were there. You were kind of homesick and kind of got depressed, but I think the clubs and some of the other activities that went on there were pretty good. I did have some friends over there that kept us all going. One experience I did have, I told the colonel's wife here that when I came back from Germany from being in the hospital, she loaned me 100 rupees down in Karachi, as I had to stay there to stay at the Intercontinental Hotel while she went on, and so I was running shy of funds. So I told her that here, and it was quite a good experience to talk to her. This experience here today and this weekend has really been a really positive and a good feeling experience of what we all have gone has happened to us over there, and we're all kind of in the same boat, and there's not a lot of us considering all the rest of the Air Force. So I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to the next reunion next year, and I hope to see more people there, and I'll try my best to get some more people there also. So thank you very much.
We'd like to get the program started. As hopefully most of you know, my name is Gary Rutledge, and I'd just like to personally welcome and thank everybody for coming tonight for this weekend. I think it's great to see everyone, and the turnout is really terrific. Hope everybody's having a good time. We will do it again. But I'm going to probably just serve more as a MC here and introduce some people, but I thought I couldn't stand up before this group without telling them a story or two about Peshawar. I'm sure we all have our share of stories. And, as most of you probably know, I've done this website thing for 3 years now about the 6937 Peshawar Air Station. And if you haven't read it, there's a section in it called Memories about Peshawar. In fact, I invite all of you to email me your special memories, and I'd be happy to post them on there. You know, I think I can put on the internet most of what could be said here. My memories were written some time ago, but they probably have been in my head since I left there in '67, and there was never calling for anything to be written about Peshawar until I started a website, at least as far as I was concerned. Arriving in Pakistan in mid-July from Alaska, where my blood had significantly thickened, was a real shock from the system in more ways than one. The C-141 deported Charleston Air Force Base, and after layovers at Torrejon and Dhahran, deposited us for 3 or 4 days in Karachi, where we had a chance to enjoy the local economy before boarding our PIA flight to Peshawar. Within days, while confined to a temporary quarters with other new arrivals similarly stricken with dysentery, I laid in this hot, dusty barracks, too weak to even eat or go to the dispensary to get my ration of brake fluid, which fortunately finally did the trick. Upon recovery, I was assigned to Able Flight and quickly got back to pounding discs. Well, as a Morris intercept operator, that's what we called it. The daily work assignment and hanging out at the pool, the club, playing softball for the able animals, and even listening to the 6 Below Zero. I was the first groupie, I think, over there. But
Hold your applause, please.
No problem.
side trips to Peshawar, Kabul, the pass soon became part of the routine. Numerous improvements took place during my tour, beginning with the opening of a new 10-lane, maybe 12 air-conditioned bowling alley. Able was working the day shift when we transitioned into the new ops building in early 1967. We also moved into new dorms in '67. The quarters were actually quite nice and were appropriately christened when the first floor sewers, my floor, backed up after the first week in existence. It seems the PAC workers didn't know the effects of discarding construction debris into a sewer system. Curiously, from that day on, our dorms took on an aroma similar to that which was found on the trip to downtown Peshawar. Overall, a memorable place that was made more tolerable thanks to the importance of the mission and the friendship of a great bunch of guys. It seemed like Peshawar kept reoccurring in my life as much as I tried to put it out of my memory. And a few years after being out of Peshawar, actually a few weeks after being out of Peshawar, I had a chance to think about a friend that was still back there. And he returned back to the States about 6 months later, and I had an opportunity to kind of hang out with him a little bit. We were both from St. Louis then. And 2 years later, Terry Pollitt married my sister. So the Peshawar thing was kind of back in my memory at that point. And it continues to be to this day. Certainly with the website and the opportunity to meet and hear from so many people here has been really an overwhelming experience. And I hope for many of you as well. At this point, I'd like to introduce Don Yeagley. If he would come up, and Don has an announcement, a presentation to make.
Yeah, I can echo a lot of those sentiments there as well too. By the way, I kind of got involved in with Gary there a couple of years ago. Met him and really got kind of excited about the whole thing. And one of the nice things that I found was I went ahead and volunteered to help do the the emailings and stuff as we started getting the reunion plan together. And it's really been wonderful because I've gotten a lot of emails from a lot of you folks here, and I was really looking forward to meeting so many of you. It's really been a lot of fun. It really has. But what I'm really up here to do right now is we want to make a little dedication of the kind of the honor of our first reunion. And as many of you know, we have a rather distinguished person amongst us here. This is Ruth Eubank, the wife of Colonel Rocky Eubank, that was our commander at the very, very end of that. And Rocky was a great guy, and Ruth has, I'm sure she's talked to many of you here today with relating a lot of really neat stories. I know I literally spent hours just listening to her today, and it was really great. So, there it is. Ruth, we have, let me read this here.
Please.
In recognition of meritorious service to the United States and to the USAF Security Service, and for the leadership provided to those under his command at Peshawar Air Station, Peshawar, West Pakistan, June 67 to June 1969, the members of Peshawar Air Station Reunion Association do hereby recognize Colonel Graydon K, Rocky Eubank, as a true patriot, and presents this proclamation to Mrs. Ruth Eubank on the occasion of the first reunion of the 6937th Communication Group, Peshawar Air Station.
Thanks, Don. Thank you, Mrs. Eubank and Karen, for being here. The Peshawar connection kept popping up in my life from time to time, but the one that probably was the most surprising and unexpected was an experience that I had in 1995. I was in transition between employers, and I had been hired by a company in Detroit, and in the process of finalizing my new employment status, I was meeting with a gentleman that handles the human resources for the company, and sitting in his office, he was going over some paperwork and noticed on my paperwork that I had indicated I was a veteran. He asked where I had served, and of course I told him I was in Alaska, and I'd been in the Air Force and been in Alaska a couple of years, and I thought of describing where I had been in Peshawar in different terms, but I just simply said that I had been in Pakistan for 15 months as well, and this person kind of looked back and swung back in his chair a little bit and looked me in the eye and said, "You were in the 6937 Communications Group, weren't you?" Wow, I said, did I put that on my application? I knew I was going to be thorough, but I didn't expect that I had said that. I was really floored, and I said, "How'd you know that?" I said, "I mean, nobody you really even know we're over there." And he said, "Well," he said, "I was there." And I was there for 4 to 5 years, something like that. And I think some of you probably heard his story and maybe seen it on the website, but that gentleman was Salim Razak, now a colleague of mine for the last 10 years in business, and a fellow PAS member who is going to share a few words with us right now. Sal?
A few months ago, and Gary said, we may be having a past reunion. All kinds of exciting things come to my mind. I would be able to see all my old friends here. I would be able to recognize people that I had known for so long. And I had been on the station for 4 years, and I kept looking forward to this day when I certainly would be able to see people that I had known for a long, long time. And a roster was beginning to take form. Most of the names on the roster were unfamiliar to me. And I said, well, gee, in 15 years or so, hundreds of people have gone through here. My window was only 40 between 1964 and 1968. I'm sure to find somebody that I knew. And with that hope, I said, well, I'm definitely going to attend. the first PAS reunion. But lo and behold, I got here, and I don't know anybody. I can't recognize anybody. Some names are given to me, and I say, yeah, you do look, your name sounds familiar, but you don't look familiar. And they look at me like, well, you know, your name looks familiar too, but boy, you're not the same. It's an exciting time for all of us. I think those who have shared Peshawar, it's a special kind of kinship that will live for as long as we're all living. I'm a native of Pakistan, and I can talk about my involvement with Peshawar Air Station from the beginning, my experiences, but it was a cultural shock right in my own hometown. There was this walled community that could have existed out of some fairyland, some sci-fi, some place where I've already written a fiction. But it was real, and the people were real. And my fascination got to me to a point where I went and applied for a job. When there was a job available, I was basically in the command section, and they needed an interpreter and translator in the command section who could talk to the natives who spoke very heavy English, accented English. And all the syllables and the inflections were in the wrong places. And so, despite the fact they were all conversing in English, they could not understand each other. Like I said, I could make this evening an interesting one, and I can give you anecdotes from now till 2 o'clock in the morning, when all of you will start yawning. I'm honored to be here. I feel I was drawn here, special, because I felt a kinship for all those people who were in Peshawar. Peshawar, Pakistan. My God, up until recently, nobody knew where it was. Peshawar, Pakistan was put on the map with all post-9/11 things that have happened. But Peshawar is real. And your assignment over there was real. Everybody who has been there have often wondered, and I have seen the expression on their faces like, what was that? And a lot of people, including Mr. Gary Rutledge, felt it was an unlucky draw. They could have well gone to a combat unit and signed up for combat, and their R&R would have been places like Japan or Okinawa or some other exotic place where they could really enjoy life, even when it was combat duty that they were doing. But Pakistan, my God, what was that? Folks, Pakistan is real. People are real. And all those Americans who have been to Pakistan, and all the families of those people who have listened to the stories from Pakistan, are a very special group of people, for they have been there, and they have experienced what nobody else has in this country. So I would say, please impart that wisdom and knowledge with your neighbors, with your friends, and all the people that think Pakistan happens to be on Mars or some other exotic planet in the universe, that people are real, and they're no different than anybody else. They're no different than perhaps the people next door to you. The only problem that we have in the world today, basically, is lack of communication. If you cannot communicate, then the suspicions cannot be dissipated. And suspicions like paranoia, would have a tendency to blow out of proportion. I look forward to the day where most of the people on this earth can understand each other through some kind of a common medium. I am able to be able to stand here and talk to you all because I have been able to master the medium of communication that you are all familiar with. There are people like me that will be able to communicate with you directly without any problems. If they were able to do that, you will find out that they are no different than anybody else. They're perhaps disadvantaged, they're poor, their social and religious orientation is different. And because of that different orientation, they are not necessarily bad people. Now, enough of this somber matter. Gary told me that I may be called upon to say a few words here. I started to think about, I gotta come up with something catchy. I gotta stand up here and talk to a bunch of veterans of Peshawar Air Station and say something that I would be able to captivate. So I thumbed through some literature, I looked at some magazines, I even looked at some encyclopedia to see if I could find something catchy. And lo and behold, I did find something that I thought was very good. Some reference materials were clear, others were not, but I did come up with something that caught my eye, and I thought it would probably catch your eye too. And it starts out like this. 77 years ago, our forefathers brought into this land. So, oh, that's catchy, but everybody knows about it, huh? Gettysburg Address. Past was real. It was remote and isolated for most all of you. The mutual fascination on both sides of the walls was always there. But Peshawar was not a representative sample of the total culture of Pakistan. Something that people who were already there could not understand. Peshawar would have been akin to like if I was coming to the United States and stationed at something like the Appalachia. And all my exposure was to the people around there, even though I may have known that there's more world around Appalachia, I would have been influenced by what was going on around there. There was fascination on both sides. All I can tell you is that my 4 years on the base were very exciting. I was introduced to such exotic things like hot dogs. Packy had never known what a hot dog is. And my first reaction to that was, could it be another part of dog than I can have? Little did I know that it's this tubular tube steak that's filled with good stuff. But the other impression that was quite a thing for me was the apple pie. All Peckies eat apples raw. They pluck them from the tree, they wipe them on their shirts, and they take a bite at it. Well, on this base, they not only wipe them clean, they cut them in pieces and put it in this doughy-shaped container and put dough on top of it and bake it. Wow, what is baked apple? You're supposed to eat that raw. But my God, I got introduced to apple pie.
after hot dog and apple pie, don't tell me. The third thing I knew already, Chevrolet. I knew Mom. I didn't know apple pie. I learned about hot dogs, but I knew Chevrolet. The reason I knew Chevrolet is Chevrolet was a exotic car for Packies. It was easier to buy a Mercedes-Benz in Pakistan than it was to buy a Chevrolet. And you would say, how is that? Well, let me tell you. Deutschmark, which you buy Mercedes-Benz, was a lesser valued currency than the almighty dollar. For the dollar was the most premium currency of all currencies that Pakis could get their hands on. And the only way we could buy a Chevrolet if you had dollars. You couldn't buy them with Deutschmarks. So those who own Chevys, and most of them Chevy Impalas and some of the bigger cars, they displayed them very proudly. My grandfather was an owner of a Winchester. He was also a displayer of many other things, but Winchester was one of his prides and joys. Gosh, I can say a lot of things about my experiences over there, but all I can say is there has been a love affair, a cultural love affair, if you will. My exposure right in my own hometown with this Martian culture called American culture finally made me to start traveling and come over here. And I wish for every American in this country to have some travel done. But traveling has, for me, been a humbling experience. Where I was born and raised, I thought I was the most special thing there was. Then I realized I wasn't the God's gift. That I'm just a human being that has not seen what's on the other side of those big hills. We are gathered here today because we have a draw. We have some kind of magnetic draw that has brought us here. You were under extremely alien environment where it was not a cultural exchange. And you only got part of Pakistan that you brought back here. I wish it was a cultural exchange, so there would have been a better understanding and not the confusion that was caused a lot of times. I am privileged and honored to be able to speak to y'all. I will always cherish this first one, and I hope this draw will continue. And we will see more and more people come to this and make it all worthwhile for everybody. God bless y'all.
Okay, that's good speech, man.
Well, when our planning group started working together and thinking about our program tonight, we were thinking, well, you know, we really ought to have someone that can speak about some facet of the overall intelligence careers and that type of thing for our unit tonight. And we were just blank. And finally someone on the committee said, well, yeah, you're right next door to Scott. You know, well, maybe they have speakers, and most of these Air Force bases of any size have speakers that come out into the community. And so I got on the website and, for Scott and found the the public affairs officer website, and I sent an email in, and man, in about a week, they said, yeah, we got you a speaker. And I said, wow. And on top of that, he's from the intelligence unit here, and I'm going, oh man, what a plus. And I found out, well, that's what these guys do. They try to match up the right kind of speaker to come to the various groups. But our speaker tonight, actually, you know, he had intelligence training at Goodfellow, and I think some of you guys were probably a Goodfellow and had some training there. And after that, he was in several different assignments, including the Director of Operations for the 7426 Tactical Reconnaissance Intelligence Support Squadron. That's a mouthful. They flew the RF-4Cs. So I remember seeing sometime in Offutt, I think, they had a static display during the air shows there. But he was actively working with as part of Desert Storm. So anyway, he got on into the 1990s, and he was in Sarajevo, Bosnia Herzegovina, and that's a mouthful. But that place didn't exist as that name when we were in. But he was there as an executive officer to the Director of Intelligence, and working with the NATO stabilization forces. And I'm thinking, man, stabilizing that area is kind of like trying to stabilize popping popcorn, you know, it's going to go off. Something's happening all the time until it's done. But he was also assigned with the headquarters of U.S. European Command. That was the same command that Peshawar was under back in our days. There might have been a little bit of reorganization since then. I think now they have a whole different command that takes care of that area of the world. But he was there under that same command we were. And he was also with attended the Air Command Staff College, and he was assigned to the 607 Air Intelligence Squadron, where he was commander of the imagery operations. That's a pretty broad technical scope here for a person to be in all these different areas, but he was director of operations with those guys. And then later on, he was assigned, just before his current assignment, he was with the 20th Intelligence Squadron. And that was where the offshoot of where some of us went from Peshawar. There was the old the 544th was at Offutt, and that's the intelligence squadron. The 20th Intelligence Squadron is a kind of a shrunken version of what's left over from that. So kind of crossed paths with some of us here in our later years of after some of these units have changed. But anyway, we're happy to welcome to